The fluorescent lights of St. Mary's Hospital hummed overhead as Dr. Sarah Chun closed the thick medical file with trembling hands. Across from her desk sat Maria and Carlos Mendez, their faces etched with the kind of worry that only parents of a critically ill child could understand. "I'm sorry," Dr. Chun began, her voice barely above a whisper. "The tests confirm what we feared. Your son Miguel has a rare form of brain tumor called diffuse intrinsic pontine glioma. It's located in a part of the brain that controls vital functions like breathing and heart rate." Maria's hand flew to her mouth, stifling a sob. Carlos reached over and gripped his wife's other hand, his knuckles white with tension. "What are our options?" Carlos asked, his voice steady despite the storm raging in his eyes. Dr. Chun looked down at her hands. In 15 years of pediatric oncology, this conversation never got easier. "The tumor is inoperable due to its location. We can try radiation therapy to slow its growth, but—" She paused, searching for the right words. "We're looking at months, not years." "How long?" Maria whispered. 6 months, maybe 8 if we're fortunate." The silence that followed was deafening. Outside the office window, life continued as normal. People walked by, cars honked, children played in the hospital courtyard. But inside this small room, time had stopped. "I want to see him," Maria said suddenly, standing up. "I want to see my boy." They walked down the long corridor to the pediatric ward, their footsteps echoing off the polished floors. Room 314 had become their second home over the past 3 weeks of testing and consultations. 12-year-old Miguel Mendez lay propped up in his hospital bed, his dark hair tousled from sleep. Despite the 4 lines and monitoring equipment surrounding him, his eyes still held that spark of curiosity that had defined him since he was a toddler. He was reading a book about space exploration, completely absorbed in the pages. "Mijo," Maria said softly, settling into the chair beside his bed. Miguel looked up and smiled, that brilliant, infectious smile that had charmed teachers, neighbors, and even the sternest hospital staff. "Mama, did you know that some stars are so far away that their light takes millions of years to reach us? We might be seeing stars that don't even exist anymore." Carlos felt his heart break a little more. How could they tell this bright, beautiful boy that his own light might be extinguished so soon? "The doctors finished their tests," Carlos said carefully. "We know what's making you sick." Miguel set down his book and looked at his parents with those intelligent brown eyes. At 12, he was mature beyond his years, and he could read the grief written across their faces. "It's bad, isn't it?" he asked quietly. Maria couldn't speak. She simply nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. Miguel was silent for a long moment, processing this information with the same methodical approach he brought to his science projects and math homework. "How long do I have?" "Miguel, we don't need to talk about," Carlos began. "Dad, I'm not a little kid anymore. I can handle the truth." Dr. Chun, who had followed them into the room, stepped forward. "The tumor is very aggressive, Miguel. Without intervention, we're looking at a few months. With treatment, we might extend that to 6 or 8 months." Miguel nodded slowly. "And the treatment won't cure me?" "No, sweetheart," Dr. Chun said gently. "I'm sorry, but it won't." "Then I don't want it," Miguel said quietly. "Miguel," Maria exclaimed. "Mama, listen to me." Miguel's voice was calm, almost adult-like. "If the treatment won't cure me, but it will make me sick and tired, then I don't want to spend my last months feeling awful. I want to spend them living." Chapter 2, The Plan. Over the next few days, the Mendez family had long conversations about what Miguel's remaining time should look like. They decided to take him home and make every day count. Miguel threw himself into his passion for learning with renewed vigor. He had always been fascinated by medicine and science, inspired by his dream of becoming a doctor like his hero, Dr. Ben Carson. His room at home became a makeshift laboratory where he conducted experiments, read medical journals that were far above his grade level, and watched surgical procedures online. "Look at this, Dad," Miguel said one evening, pointing to his computer screen. This surgeon in India successfully separated conjoined twins who were connected at the head. Everyone said it was impossible, but he found a way. Carlos looked at the complex surgical diagrams his son was studying. "It's amazing what doctors can accomplish these days. Dad, what if there's something the doctors here don't know? What if there's a treatment or a procedure that could help me?" Carlos felt a familiar stab of pain. They had already consulted with specialists across the country. The diagnosis was unanimous and devastating. Mijo, we've talked to the best doctors. But not all of them, Miguel interrupted. There are medical schools, research hospitals, experimental programs. What if somewhere out there, someone is working on exactly what I need? Maria, who had been listening from the doorway, came and sat on Miguel's bed. What are you thinking, sweetheart? I want to write to medical schools. All of them. I want to tell them about my case and ask if they have any ideas or if they're working on anything that might help. His parents exchanged glances. They didn't want to encourage false hope, but they also couldn't bear to crush their son's determination. Okay, Carlos said finally. We'll help you research and write the letters. And so began Miguel's campaign. He spent hours crafting personalized letters to medical schools, research institutions, and hospitals around the world. Each letter was meticulously researched and professionally written, detailing his case and asking for any guidance or experimental treatments that might be available. Chapter 3. The Research. As weeks passed, Miguel's condition remained stable, much to everyone's surprise. Dr. Chun had warned them that he might experience headaches, vision problems, or difficulty with coordination, but Miguel seemed to be defying the timeline. It's remarkable, Dr. Chun told the family during one of their weekly checkups. The tumor doesn't appear to be growing as aggressively as we initially predicted. Miguel seized on this news. That gives me more time to find a solution. His bedroom had been transformed into a command center. Charts covered the walls showing brain anatomy, tumor classifications, and treatment protocols. A world map was dotted with pins marking every institution he had contacted. Stacks of medical journals and research papers covered every surface. Miguel, sweetheart, you need to get some rest, Maria said, finding him reading at 2 a.m. Mama, I found something interesting, Miguel said, showing her a research paper. There's a doctor in Switzerland who's been working on a new type of focused radiation therapy. It's so precise that it can target tumors in areas that were previously considered inoperable. Maria looked at the complex medical terminology and felt overwhelmed. Have you written to him? I sent a letter 3 weeks ago. I'm still waiting for a response. Miguel had sent over 200 letters to medical institutions worldwide. Most responses were polite but discouraging, expressions of sympathy, coupled with confirmations that his case was indeed terminal. But Miguel refused to give up. Look at this, he said, pulling up another research paper. A team at Johns Hopkins is working on immunotherapy treatments for brain tumors. They're teaching the body's own immune system to fight the cancer. Miguel, Carlos said gently, you need to prepare yourself for the possibility that... Dad, no. Miguel's voice was firm. I'm not giving up. Do you remember what you always told me about problems in your engineering work? That every problem has a solution, you just have to find the right approach. Carlos nodded, remembering his own words. Well, this is just a very complicated engineering problem. The tumor is in a difficult location, but that doesn't mean it's impossible to reach. We just need to find the right tool. Chapter 4. The Response. 3 months after beginning his letter-writing campaign, Miguel received a phone call that would change everything. Miguel? Came a voice with a slight German accent. This is Dr. Klaus Weber from the University of Zurich. I received your letter about your case. Miguel's heart began to race. Dr. Weber, thank you for calling. I must say, your letter was the most impressive correspondence I have ever received from a patient. Your understanding of your condition and your research into potential treatments is remarkable. Thank you, sir. I've been studying everything I can find about pontine gliomas. Yes, I can see that. Miguel, I want you to know that I have been working on a new surgical technique for tumors in this exact location. It's experimental, and we've only performed it on 3 patients so far. Miguel could barely breathe. What kind of technique? We use a combination of advanced imaging, microscopic surgical tools, and real-time monitoring of brain function. It allows us to operate in areas that were previously considered untouchable. And the results? There was a pause. 2 of the 3 patients are tumor-free 1 year post-surgery. The 3rd patient had some complications, but survived the procedure. Miguel felt his legs go weak. Dr. Weber, would you consider taking my case? I need to see all of your scans and medical records first. But based on what you've described in your letter, you might be a candidate for this procedure. Chapter 5. The Journey. 2 weeks later, the Mendez family found themselves on a plane to Switzerland, carrying a folder full of medical records and a heart full of hope that they had thought was lost forever. Dr. Weber was a tall, gentle man with kind eyes and steady hands. He reviewed Miguel's scans with the same intensity that Miguel had studied his medical journals. "The tumor is in a challenging location," Dr. Weber said, pointing to the images on his computer screen. "But it's not impossible. The procedure would take approximately 8 hours, and there are significant risks." "What kind of risks?" Maria asked. "Miguel could lose motor function, speech, or cognitive abilities. In the worst case, he might not survive the surgery." The family sat in silence, absorbing this information. "Doctor," Miguel said quietly, "what are my chances without the surgery?" "Based on the progression we're seeing, perhaps 3 more months." "And with the surgery?" "If successful, you could live a normal life. If unsuccessful..." Dr. Weber didn't need to finish the sentence. Miguel looked at his parents. "I want to try." "Mijo, it's dangerous," Carlos said. "Dad, I'm going to die anyway. This gives me a chance to live." Chapter 6. The Preparation. The surgery was scheduled for the following week. Miguel used this time to prepare himself mentally and physically. He continued his research, now focusing on the specific procedure he would undergo. "Dr. Weber," Miguel said during one of their pre-operative meetings, "I've been reading about the technique you'll be using. The approach through the middle cerebellar peduncle is brilliant. It avoids the critical structures while still allowing access to the tumor." Dr. Weber smiled. "You know, Miguel, in my 20-year career, I've never had a patient who understood the procedure as well as you do. You truly have the mind of a surgeon." "That's what I want to be," Miguel said. "If I survive this, I want to be a neurosurgeon. I want to help kids like me." "I have no doubt you will," Dr. Weber said. "Your determination and intelligence are remarkable." The night before the surgery, Miguel couldn't sleep. He sat by the window of his hospital room, looking out at the Swiss Alps silhouetted against the starry sky. "Mijo," Maria said softly, sitting beside him. "How are you feeling?" "Scared," Miguel admitted, "but also excited. For the first time in months, I feel like I have a real chance." "You've been so brave through all of this," Carlos said, joining them at the window. "I'm proud of you. Win or lose, I'm glad I tried," Miguel said. "I read somewhere that courage isn't the absence of fear. It's feeling the fear and doing what needs to be done anyway." At 6 a.m. on a crisp October morning, Miguel was wheeled into the operating room. Dr. Weber and his team had been preparing for hours, reviewing the surgical plan and setting up the specialized equipment. "Ready, Miguel?" Dr. Weber asked. Miguel nodded, managed a brave smile, and said, "Let's fix this problem." The surgery was a marathon of precision and patience. Using advanced imaging technology, Dr. Weber carefully navigated through the brain tissue, avoiding critical structures while pursuing the tumor. In the waiting room, Maria and Carlos sat with Miguel's extended family, grandparents, aunts, uncles, and cousins who had flown in from across the country. The hospital chapel was filled with friends and neighbors praying for the brave boy who had refused to give up. "The tumor is more extensive than we initially thought." Dr. Weber's assistant came out to update the family after 4 hours. "But Dr. Weber is making good progress. Hour 5. We've successfully removed about 60% of the tumor. The remaining portion is in a very delicate area." Hour 6. Dr. Weber is working on the final section. Miguel's vital signs remain stable. Hour 7. We're in the final phase of the procedure. Dr. Weber believes he can remove the entire tumor. Hour 8. Surgery is complete. Dr. Weber will be out to speak with you soon. Chapter 8. The Recovery. Dr. Weber emerged from the operating room looking exhausted but triumphant. He still wore his surgical scrubs, and his hair was disheveled from the hours under surgical lights. "We did it," he said simply. "We removed the entire tumor." Maria collapsed into Carlos's arms, sobbing with relief. The waiting room erupted in cheers and tears of joy. "Miguel performed beautifully during the surgery," Dr. Weber continued. "His brain function remained stable throughout the procedure, and all of his vital signs are strong. He's a remarkable young man." "Can we see him?" Maria asked. "He's in recovery now. He'll be groggy for a few hours, but yes, you can see him." Miguel looked small and pale in the recovery room, his head wrapped in bandages. But when he saw his parents, he managed a weak smile. "Did it work?" he whispered. "The tumor is gone, Mijo," Carlos said, tears streaming down his face. It's completely gone. Miguel closed his eyes and smiled. I knew it would work. I knew there had to be a way. Chapter 9. The Aftermath. Miguel's recovery was nothing short of miraculous. Within days, he was sitting up in bed, his cognitive function completely intact. Within a week, he was walking the hospital corridors, eager to return to his studies. Your brain scans show no remaining tumor tissue, Dr. Weber told him during a follow-up appointment. The surgery was a complete success. News of Miguel's recovery spread quickly through the medical community. The 12-year-old boy who had diagnosed his own condition and researched his own treatment had become a symbol of hope and determination. Miguel, Dr. Weber said, I want you to know that your case will help other children with similar conditions. Your research and advocacy have contributed to our understanding of this disease. That's what I hoped for, Miguel said. I want other kids to know that they shouldn't give up, even when the doctors say there's no hope. Chapter 10. The New Beginning. 6 months after his surgery, Miguel was back in school, excelling in his studies with renewed vigor. His experience had only strengthened his determination to become a doctor. Miguel, you have a visitor, his mother called from downstairs. Miguel looked up from his homework, advanced biology that he was studying independently, to see Dr. Chun from St. Mary's Hospital standing in his doorway. Dr. Chun, Miguel exclaimed, jumping up to hug her. I had to come see this miracle for myself, she said, tears in her eyes. Miguel, I owe you an apology. I told you there was no hope, but you proved me wrong. You were working with the information you had, Miguel said graciously. But that's why I want to be a doctor too. I want to find solutions for the cases that seem impossible. Dr. Chin smiled. I have no doubt you will. In fact, I have a proposal for you. What kind of proposal? I've been in touch with the administrators at Johns Hopkins Medical School. They're interested in your case and your research. They want to offer you a summer internship program for exceptional students. Miguel's eyes widened. Really? You'll work alongside researchers who are developing new treatments for brain tumors. You'll be contributing to the same kind of research that ultimately saved your life. Chapter 11. The Inspiration. As Miguel prepared for his internship at Johns Hopkins, he reflected on the journey that had brought him to this point. He had gone from being a terminal patient to being a research collaborator, all because he had refused to accept that his situation was hopeless. Miguel, his father said one evening, I want you to know how proud I am of you. Not just for surviving, but for the way you fought. Dad, I couldn't have done it without you and Mom. You supported me even when my plan seemed crazy. It did seem crazy, Carlos admitted. Writing to medical schools around the world, researching treatments that were way beyond your grade level. But you were right to try. I learned something important through all this, Miguel said. Sometimes the experts are wrong, not because they're bad at their jobs, but because they're limited by what they know at that moment. Science is always advancing, and there's always someone, somewhere, working on the next breakthrough. Miguel's story had inspired people around the world. He received letters from other children with serious illnesses, asking for advice and encouragement. He responded to every single one, sharing his research methods and his message of hope. Chapter 12. The Legacy. 2 years after his surgery, Miguel stood in the same hospital room where he had first received his terminal diagnosis. But this time, he was there as a volunteer, talking to another family facing a similar situation. The doctors say there's nothing they can do, the mother said, tears streaming down her face. Her 10-year-old daughter lay in the hospital bed, bravely trying to comfort her parents. That's what they told me too, Miguel said gently. But nothing they can do and nothing that can be done are two very different things. He sat down beside the little girl's bed. What's your name? Sarah, she said quietly. Sarah, I'm going to tell you something that might sound crazy. You know your condition better than anyone else will. You know your body. You know how you feel, and you have the right to research your own treatment options. But I'm just a kid, Sarah said. So was I when I got sick. But being a kid doesn't mean you can't learn about medicine. It doesn't mean you can't ask questions. And it definitely doesn't mean you have to give up.